Appearance on Dion's Daily Dose does not imply endorsement from or by any candidate or guest. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed by Dion Bergeron or Dion's Daily Dose are his own and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of any guest. Material and information presented is for general information purposes only. The Dion's Daily Dose name in all forms and abbreviations are the property of its owners, and its use does not imply endorsement of or opposition to any specific organization, product, or service. If you'd like to support the show, please visit our Patreon at patreon.com/Dion's Daily Dose.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Here with my buddy Jim.
Morning, people of the internet.
Yeah, for our weekly coffee break. So today we're going to talk about the movie Civil War that came out in this year, 2024. I'm not sure exactly when it released, but
Not long ago.
It wasn't that long. You're a big fan of the movie, but not necessarily for the movie. More of a collection of the scenes, right?
Yeah, I think big fan is a stretch.
Okay.
I don't regret watching it.
Okay.
I definitely, got some things out of it. Some good, some bad.
Right.
It was a little independent movie-ish.
Right.
Which I don't mind.
Okay.
I don't mind at all as long as the story's good. And it was middling.
It was passable.
Yeah.
It was passable. The first time I saw it, because I've seen it twice now. The first time that I saw it, I just watched it as a movie.
Mm-hmm.
And by the end of the movie, I was like, okay, I can think of a worse way to spend an hour, 45 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't really have that many. There weren't that many moments that I was like, I guess intense about one way or the other. There were a couple.
Well, that's the thing you got to understand about this movie. It doesn't have a whole lot of edgier seat moments.
Right.
It's not, and it was very, in my opinion, misbilled.
I agree with that.
It's not an action movie. There are some action scenes in it.
Yes.
But it's not an action movie.
Yeah. The movie itself, I feel it was they advertised it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, mislabeled kind of thing. There were going in, I expected a lot more actiony type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, it was almost like a road trip movie.
Right.
And I think had it been billed that way and I'd have gone in with
mm-hmm.
a more, a better understanding of what the movie was,
mm-hmm.
Maybe I would have been less disappointed by the entirety of it. But all of that said, let's kind of talk about, like we said, overall, I think a movie can get away with being a middling story if either the characters are people that you root for and care about, compelling characters, or a compelling narrative. If the characters are just kind of you can get by that with a compelling overall narrative.
Well, I definitely think they missed the mark on compelling characters.
Absolutely.
In fact, like what I thought was going to be the most compelling character, the president, played by Nick Offerman. I mean,
right?
Ron Swanson.
Right. And he got what, 30 seconds of screen time?
He didn't get much.
Not much at all.
Yeah, honestly, he was barely in the film. There will probably be some spoilers in here.
Yeah, just so everybody knows, we're not aiming for spoiler free. We're just going to talk about the movie. If you haven't seen the movie, you're probably going to get some stuff spoiled. Spoiler alert. We're not setting out to do it, but it's inevitable talking about some of the scenes that we're talking about.
Well, and it's not one of those things where, let's face it, it's not an M. Night Shyamalan film.
Right. Where there's this big,
Yeah, there's no, what'd you twist?
yeah, right.
So, the spoilers as they are, like, a buddy of mine actually said, all the good scenes in the movie, and I don't agree with this, but it's what he told me. He said, all the good scenes in the movie were in the preview.
Okay.
But he was looking for an action movie.
Right. Right. And that's kind of the overarching thing here for that movie is if you're looking for an action movie, yeah, all of the best scenes were in the trailers.
Now, that being said, there is some very compelling imagery in the film.
There is. I thought that I will agree with you there. I think there were some excellent use of, the camera and backdrop, and there were some phenomenal images from that film.
And a lot of it to me was it was portrayed in a way that was kind of believable. It wasn't a fantastical, fantasy story.
I don't know, man. One of the most there were two majorly unbelievable things here.
Okay, let's touch on that.
Yeah, the first one was journalistic integrity.
Okay, we'll get to that.
Okay, save that.
Yeah, save that
for a moment.
I'm talking about just the imagery of the things going on around.
Okay,
like the gas station.
Okay, now the gas station was a believable
the gas station
scenario.
The dump truck, and we'll touch on these later.
Right.
But these things, I can believe that sort of thing could happen.
Oh, sure. One of the most, I guess, compelling images from the film, and you may not get it right away, but one of the earliest scenes in the movie is the water truck.
Yes,
right?
The water. Yeah, let's start there. Let's start at the water truck. So, that is like literally one of the first scenes in the film.
Mm-hmm.
So the journalists are covering this. It's a riot.
Yeah.
It's basically a riot. And the reason for the riot is because there's this big water truck. It was the Department of Environmental Protection
or something like
that. And it's a tanker truck.
Yeah.
And
it's one of the small tankers. It's not a semi-tanker.
It's a tanker truck. SWAT teams are around it, and there's throngs of people with water jugs and buckets and whatnot, and they're all trying to push their way in.
Trying to get water.
And the police are trying to tell them it's a 2-hour wait, and they're like, "We need water now," and it's getting pretty rowdy.
Yep.
And enter the journalist. Kirsten Dunst's character, Lee.
Yeah.
Is a
I had to go back and look up the names of the characters.
Is basically a war photographer.
Yeah.
And I'll get to that in a little bit. We're focusing on the water truck.
Right.
So, and that, hell, we've seen it.
Yeah.
We've seen it plenty of times, people rioting,
sure.
Trying to get stuff and being pushed back, yada, yada, yada.
Right.
And that was poignant enough. And then there's the girl. You remember the girl?
Yes.
So you see the girl. She puts on her backpack and picks up the American flag.
Yep.
And
and for the water truck. Yep.
Yeah. 3 guesses what happens next.
Right. Yeah. So that kind of, my understanding of that scene was it was kind of supposed to set the stage for the rest of the movie, show us kind of what kind of environment we're dealing with,
right?
As well as
now this is taking place in New York,
right? This is New York City. Yeah, they make it pretty clear. NYPD cars.
An interesting blink and you'll miss it moment of that scene.
Yeah.
Did you see what building was in the backdrop?
I did not.
University of Brooklyn.
Interesting. Okay.
So, and that kind of, in my interpretation, kind of ties into, you notice how you see all these protests and riots around colleges.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I can see where you're going with that.
So there's some nudges there. Yeah, like a little subtle, hint, nudge, say no more.
Right. Okay. And we're introduced to 3 of the 4 main characters in this scene.
Right.
Yeah. You got Joel, who's the I never completely understood. Is he just like
Joel's the reporter?
He's the actual writer.
He's the one who's writing the story.
Okay.
Now he's played by Wagner. I'm gonna mess his name up. Wagner Mura.
Okay.
I've never heard of him.
Me either.
He may be.
He's probably been in stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, he's probably been in other independent films and things like that. And that's Kirsten Dunst's character Lee.
Yep.
That's her partner.
Mm-hmm.
They're the one covering the story. And we're introduced to Jesse.
Jesse, yeah.
A young aspiring photographer.
Right.
Played by Kaylee Spaney.
Who looked about 12.
Yeah, she looked very young. She was
She's
23, I think they said in the movie.
Yeah, 22, 23, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Which it wasn't until the end of the movie that she looked 22.
Right.
She was very, very young looking.
And I think that was deliberate. That was a deliberate
as well, yeah.
Because
young, idealistic.
One of the little side things of the movie is her kind of developing and losing her innocence.
Mm-hmm. Right. But the narrative just was, in my opinion, was not that compelling. Character development, other than her looking older, she was still an idiot by the end of the film. And in my opinion, again, was responsible for more body count than just about anyone else in the film, with the exception of the armies themselves.
I don't know that I'd agree with that. We'll deep dive into that a little later.
We'll dive into that in just a minute.
But I don't think she was really responsible for that many people dying. There's a couple, glaring examples, but foreshadowing.
Right.
So we have the riot scene. The water truck, improvised explosives, bodies everywhere. All the while, Lee taking pictures of the scene, and Jesse taking pictures of Lee.
Right. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. Yeah.
And then we, fade to black, and then we're at the hotel.
Right.
And the hotel's like about the closest thing you'll get to a setup for what's to come.
Mm-hmm.
Because all the journalists in New York are, staying at this hotel. And the power's going out, the Wi-Fi sucks, and everybody just seems pretty much, they're either joking or incredibly inconvenienced.
Right.
And it just seems very like everybody's disconnected from what's going on.
Right.
Like people are, you just watched a bunch of people die in the street.
Yep.
And, the Wi-Fi sucks.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to go to my room and upload this.
Right.
Yeah. Hopefully it'll be done by the time I wake up.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, the elevator may go out.
Yeah.
I got to walk upstairs.
Right. Oh my God. The funny part, I watched it with Donovan. And that scene right there, he looks at me and he's like, am I the only one that's on his side? His being the guy who worked at the hotel.
Right.
Who told her, hey, ma'am, sometimes we do have power interruptions and it may take, your trip may be delayed, which is probably the nicest way you could say that. And I'm like, no, I'm with him
on
too.
the 10th floor.
I'm on the 10th floor. Yeah.
Your choice.
Exactly. Your choice. Either the power stays on and you'll make it, or the power doesn't stay on and you get stuck.
Mm-hmm.
You're the one who has to make that choice.
Right.
And it was just, I will say this, between the first scene and that scene, it really set the tone for her character. And I disliked her character from the get-go.
Right.
Especially that scene. That scene right there, I was like, yeah, I see what we're dealing with. Now, to be fair, because before you get started, she did not turn into a Mary Sue or a girl boss or any of that stuff for the most part.
She stayed pretty consistent.
Up until the end of the film.
Until like the final scenes. Yeah.
Right.
And that to me just seemed like such a harsh about face.
Right. Thank you. There was no development in between.
Yeah. Well, there was a half-hearted attempt throughout the movie
Yeah.
to kind of lead you to her state of mind.
Mm-hmm.
And
A little bit.
I just wasn't. It
Wasn't
was,
loving
like
it.
I said, half-hearted.
Right. Half-hearted. Yeah, I'd agree with that. You know what? I'd be interested to see what was left on the cutting room floor.
That
like
would be
behind
interesting.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like the deleted scenes and stuff.
Right.
I'm curious about that. Just because, going back to the hotel.
Back to the hotel.
We have we're introduced to. I thought his name was Walter, but it's not Walter.
It's Sammy.
Yeah, I'm not sure where I picked Walter up from. I thought they called him Walter at some point, but maybe I'm just imagining shit. Who knows?
Right. So yeah, let's talk about Sammy for a minute.
Yeah,
because he
I had liked Sammy.
I didn't
Wasn't
hate
my
Sammy.
favorite.
He was like. He was the best of the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's a good way to sum it up.
To me, Sammy felt kind of like where we're shoehorning the old school journalist.
Yeah.
It's alluded to him being Lee's mentor.
Yeah. Alluded to.
Yeah. So going back to that whole journalistic integrity thing,
right?
They're really trying to push this narrative that we're dealing with a bunch of, golden age journalists.
Right. Which, let's be honest, those days are gone.
Yeah, long gone. Just a fond memory and scenes in comic books.
Yeah. In comic books, we've seen kind of the ideal there, right? The golden age of journalism.
Yeah, the Lois Lanes.
There you go. Yeah, Lois Lane, just like Superman was kind of the idealistic, honor
the superhero, the good guy, the quintessential good guy.
Lois Lane was the quintessential reporter. Get the truth out no matter what. Right.
Absolutely. And that's kind of like it almost seemed, I won't say heavy-handed, but like it was being pushed that we're unbiased journalists.
Right.
We want the truth.
Yeah.
We want to get the story out there. The people have a right to know.
Right. I will say this though. One of the I think most one of the best things in the film itself, I believe, was Joel's journey. Okay. He didn't change much throughout the film, right?
No, he didn't. He stayed.
But one thing that I appreciated was the fact that they showed Joel for what he was, which is, dude, the guy's bloodthirsty.
Well,
he not bloodthirsty, but he enjoyed the rush. He was an adrenaline junkie.
He wasn't a good guy or a bad guy. He was just a guy.
He was just a guy with all of his flaws.
And he enjoyed his job.
Right. A little, possibly too much.
And there's going back to that whole golden age journalist sort of thing, there's a certain recklessness, consequences be damned, kind of.
Right.
You got to be a little bit off to run into those kinds of stories.
Right, to run into the hail of gunfire and explosions and all of that.
Just to get the perspective for the story.
Right. So what? Well, again, there's going to be spoilers, guys. That's unavoidable. But the bloodlust in his eyes at the end of the film, where they have the president, right?
Okay.
And he wants to quote. We're not going to jump to that yet, but it was consistent. With his character.
Yeah. We'll back that up.
Yeah.
To the mall scene where with the burned out helicopter in front of the JCPenney.
JCPenney. Okay.
And it's nighttime and they're hearing gunfire. They're seeing tracers.
Right.
And, he just wants to go.
He wants to go.
He wants to go. He's like, he says something along the lines of, you know what? That gunfire is getting me so hard right now.
Yep, that's almost exactly what he said. Yeah, and I actually appreciated that because it showed his motivation.
Mm-hmm.
It showed his, kind of personality and where he was, and I was like, okay, all right, I got a good understanding of this guy now. This is why he does this.
Yeah.
The rest of them,
whereas like you have Lee, who throughout at least the first half of the movie, it's like she has no soul.
Right.
She's just this
She's just there.
ghost.
Yeah.
Haunting.
Takes pictures.
Yeah.
There's no motivation there. There's no and even the opportunity, right? So there was a scene when they get to the they get to this stadium, this like bombed out, whatever stadium with graffiti all over it, and the Global Defense Fund that was
the Global Relief Fund.
Global Relief Fund that's feeding people, and there's tents and all of that, right? And Kirsten Dunst's character and the young girl, Jessie. I can't even remember the names of these characters. That's how much impact they made on me. But they had an opportunity, a real opportunity for character development there, or at least real character backstory.
Yeah, and it was
mad.
It was a very limp-wristed attempt.
Yes. Yeah, it was, basically Lee's asking her kind of how she got into it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's literally a quote off a Wikipedia page. They even call it out as such.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Yeah, and then she's like, well, tell me what I'm missing. And she's like, I don't know, a lot.
Yeah, and that was it. That was the entirety of it.
Yeah. Like leave me alone,
she's
kid.
from Colorado, and her folks live on a farm.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And she covered the Antifa slaughter. Antifa massacre.
Yeah.
Which we learned nothing.
Right. Yeah,
something about Maoists from Portland, which that tracks. But
yeah, the Portland Maoists.
There's
some, and if you look, people have kind of tried to do a deep dive on as much lore for the movie as they could piece together.
Okay.
Which isn't a whole lot.
Yeah.
So basically what you have, and you got to get this from like a little snippet of a map on a screen that you're seeing a reflection of.
Okay.
So people, bravo to the people who have like,
those are the real
really,
artists.
really kind of like,
right.
Picked it apart.
Right.
So you've got your Western forces, California, Texas.
Yeah. Which I'll talk about in a minute.
Yeah. And a few other states in the West.
Yeah.
You've got like Washington and things like that, where your Maoists are.
Your Eastern Seaboard type stuff.
You've got
the Florida
Alliance, which is some southern states down there around Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got the Loyalist states, which is like the Midwest and East Coast.
Yeah.
Which is funny because they keep making references like you said, Lee's from Colorado.
Right.
She says, yeah, my parents are in Colorado on a farm.
Lee is from Missouri.
No, Jesse's from Missouri.
Or Jesse, sorry. Yeah, you're right.
Jesse's
from Missouri.
Jesse's from Missouri.
From Colorado, yeah.
Lee's from Colorado. Lee says, yeah, my parents were on a farm in Colorado, pretending like none of this is happening.
Pretending none of this is happening.
Yeah. Jesse's father is in Missouri on a farm, pretending none of this is happening. Right. Very convenient.
Yeah.
So these so-called loyalist states are just keeping their heads down and waiting for it to be over.
Right.
And, pretending like life is just moving on.
Right.
Which was interesting to me.
Yeah. I want to stop real quick because I think it's really important. They started off on an unbelievable note for me, because if you're going to put two polar opposites like Texas and California together, you got to tell me why. At least you got to give me something.
All right. So here's my thought on that. And this is just speculation on my part.
Sure.
But first of all, I believe that the filmmaker is kind of like, leaving those intentionally blank. We'll let the viewer fill in the blanks.
Okay.
It can be whatever you want.
Right.
Whatever.
Right.
The kind of implication, and I believe the filmmaker actually said this in an interview. The implication was the president has done something so horrendous,
right,
and so off the cuff, that these two states have set aside their ideological and political differences,
right,
for a common enemy.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought as well.
And once again, seems a little kind of pushed in your face.
Yeah,
it didn't happen organically.
Right.
It wasn't something that was believable. It was just like here it is. Eat
right,
it.
Right. And the other thing is the Florida Alliance, right? And they did remark, and I actually appreciated the remark by Sammy while they were at the hotel, where Sammy said they're not unified. They don't communicate with each other.
They have no coordination.
No coordination. Once they, complete their objective, storm DC, they're probably going to turn on each other.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad you said that. I was just about to get to that.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad they put that in there.
Sammy was the closest thing you had to understanding what was going on.
Right.
The things he said were about as clear as you were going to get.
Yeah, he was, in my opinion, he was by far the most intelligent character.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's been around.
Right. He's been around. It's, wisdom. And,
and so going back to the hotel scene, he asks where they're off to.
Right.
And nobody wants to say because nobody wants to get scooped. And they finally admit, well, we're going to DC. And he goes, oh, front line. And they're like, no, we're going to DC. We're going to the White House.
Right. We're going to try to interview the president.
The front line is at Charlottesville.
Right.
They're going to DC to interview the president. And he's like, I don't want anything to do with your suicide pact.
Right.
Yeah,
they shoot journalists on site in the Capitol.
Yeah, they shoot journalists on site. He said that.
Yep. And I was like, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, which is another interesting point.
Right.
Throughout this whole thing, the government seems very anti-journalist.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The Western forces, on the other hand,
oh, yeah, they love them.
Oh, they'll give them a guided tour.
Right. Right. They put them right in there in the front line.
They're like old buds.
Yep.
Which, again, seems a little in your face.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. And probably not out of the realm of reality.
Right.
Because, let's face it, the government is not known for being above board.
Very, very true.
And the Western forces, the secessionists, as they're called throughout the film as well, they want all the press they can get. They want to get their message out there.
Right.
They want to get support. They need the support.
Yeah. But one thing that I found interesting, I guess, is with all the journalists that they had with them, they didn't use that opportunity for them to say what their message actually was.
Well,
do you know what I mean? There was no direct interview. I think that would have helped with the world building to have, the Western forces commander say something or whatever.
But at the same time, I feel like they weren't trying to, everybody knew what the message was.
Yeah.
There was an implication that, you knew what the Western forces were after.
Right.
They were going to take down the tyrannical president.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that was the overarching.
And they were going to let their actions speak for them.
So I'm looking at my notes here. It also, so I did want to add this. The movie opened with a speech from the president.
Yeah, him rehearsing his speech.
Mm-hmm. Right. And then that speech actually leads you to believe that he's winning or
right.
It sets a certain stage, right?
Mm-hmm.
But as we see, he's full of crap.
Right. Well, I mean,
Right.
he's not going to go, well, not going to lie, they had us in the first half.
I will say this. Okay, so the water scene when the explosion goes off, right? That weird, it wasn't like, because a lot of times when they have explosions in movies, it'll be silence, but there'll be like this undercurrent of a hum or,
Right.
to replicate. This was just silence.
Right.
And the frame rate was weird. And it was just, it made me uncomfortable, not in a destruction kind of way, but in a, is there something wrong with the movie kind of way?
Right.
Like, is my player messing up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was one of those avant-garde moments.
Yeah, I didn't care for it at all, personally. Yeah. But anyway, I wanted to mention that because it was just weird. I didn't like the choices. Oh yeah, and the thing he said also after they shoot journalists on site at the Capitol, he said they see us as enemy combatants. Which I find interesting.
Well, and that's not too far off the mark if you put it in perspective.
Right.
You've got the Western forces moving up on you, and you've got the press right in their ranks.
Right there with them. So are they wrong?
Yeah.
I mean,
and this is not a movie about... When you look at the two sides... You're not looking at a good guy, bad guy scenario.
No, they both sucked. Yeah. Everybody sucked in this movie.
It was, everybody believed they were right. And, they were killing and dying for their beliefs.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
As people are wont to do.
And, let's face it, it's a war.
Yeah.
The from what we've seen of the East Coast in the movie, it's destroyed.
Yeah.
It's pretty much just gone.
I'm gonna say this. Okay, so one of the things they said, and I believe it was Sammy who said this, was talking about. So they were on the road to DC after the hotel scene. After they got a car full of people.
Yeah,
they're headed to DC, and Sammy had said the interstates are vaporized.
Yeah,
that's the word that he used, vaporized. So we're going to have to use, back road. You have to go this way and then up around. And then, they're like, you've obviously thought about this route. And he's like, eh. So, so they go and they're obviously on a 4-lane highway, divided highway. And there's a bunch of destroyed cars. So, okay, that tracks. And then he goes through the median to go to the other side. And the look that Lee gives him and this eye roll, for some reason it produced, and maybe it's because, I'm tired of being told how to drive by my wife, but maybe, just maybe.
Well, and you weren't such a fan of Lee's anyway.
I didn't like her anyway, but my immediate reaction was, what the hell, where do you expect me to go? It was like this, you hit some bumps, how dare you? And I'm like, where the fuck else is he supposed to go? There's nowhere else to drive.
Yeah, and relating to that scene,
she's so irritating to me.
You've got Jesse in the backseat, kind of just spacing off,
right?
And Sammy goes, "Hey, you don't want to miss this,
right? You're not going to want to miss this."
As they drive through the carnage of the,
the burned out husk of vehicles all over the interstate, broken down,
or
destroyed,
just abandoned because they couldn't go anywhere,
or just it was,
and throughout the movie you do see people, with the roll away luggage and things like that, shopping carts, what have you, just trying to get somewhere. Somewhere that's not where they were.
Else. Yeah. And that brings me to, okay, so they get off the interstate and they get to this the first town which is the gas station coming up, right? And they weave through the barricade, and there are what appear to be National Guard or military forces at this checkpoint, right?
Yeah, there's checkpoints all over the place.
And there's this minivan or SUV or whatever leaving with a carload of people, family, whatever, loaded down with all their luggage and stuff.
Yeah, and furniture and like whatever they could grab.
Yeah, they're going the way that these people just came from.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think that did show there's plenty of people that are just going to go somewhere.
Right.
They don't know where they're going. They don't know what's there, but it's got to be better than here.
Yeah. People who are east going to say it's better out west. People out west say it's going to be better in the east.
Yeah. So then you get to the gas station, all that happens, and then there's the two people hanging in the car wash.
Right. Well, let's back that up a little bit. You know, you get a glimpse of the people hanging out in the car wash while they're deliberating whether or not to stop for gas.
Right. And Sammy makes a great point, which is we should take any opportunity we can to fill up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they do that, and then they ask for gas, and
they haggle a bit.
Well, the first thing they ask is, do you have a local fuel permit?
Right.
So already we're kind of shown
there's factions.
That this is kind of devolved into smaller tribes.
Yep. Which is, I believe, is a very accurate rendition.
Yeah, it's very believable.
A very believable aspect of this story.
You know, you got three good old boys in front of a gas station. Armed with rifles.
Yep, protecting what's theirs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or what's someone's, right? It's probably the guy, the guy that was actually doing the haggling, and then a couple of his buddies or friends or sons or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
So they're protecting what's theirs.
Right.
And then we find out, I was going to move on to the car wash.
Well, before we get to that, they're haggling.
Okay, so I'm just going to tell you guys, before we actually started this episode,
we were so ready.
Jim's like, we might have to split this up over a couple of episodes.
Yeah.
Well, this may turn into a 4-hour.
I don't know. This is going to turn into 4 hours, but
he has a lot to say.
I have some stuff to say.
It's all right. Go ahead.
Yeah. So they're haggling, and he's like, yeah, we don't have gas, and she's like, well, we don't want you. We're not asking you to give it to us. He's like, wasn't gonna.
Yeah. You're buying it regardless.
Yeah. If you were going to get gas, you would
pay for it.
Right. But you're not.
You're not going to get it.
Yeah. And, she says, well, what about $300 for half a tank and two cans?
2 cans, yeah.
He's like, $300 get you a sandwich.
Yep. Yeah, we have ham or cheese.
Mm-hmm. And this is the interesting part of it, where she responds with 300 Canadian.
Right.
And he goes, okay, I think we have a deal.
Yeah.
So we've established that at this point, money's not really worth much.
Right. At least American money isn't worth jack.
Right.
Whereas, or whatever, but foreign currency is now worth far more.
Yeah. Someplace that, isn't a war zone.
Yeah.
Their money's worth something.
Right.
And then we can move on to the
car wash.
The car wash.
Yeah. So Jesse goes, Jesse, the young girl, gets out of the car, and Joel tells her, hey, this isn't going to take long. In other words, don't go too far. We're about to bounce.
Yeah. And
no, I saw something from the road. And you notice one of the guys peel away to follow her.
Mm-hmm.
And Donovan and I are watching it. Now, this was the second time that I had seen it, so I already knew, what was coming.
Right.
But Donovan's like, is some bad stuff about to happen to her? And I'm like, no. He's like, okay, because I'm used to how this goes by now with these movies. And I'm like,
there was a subtle hint that things could have gone that way.
Right.
But once again, the soulless specter wisps in,
right,
and somehow diffuses the situation with her ever-present charm and grace.
Right.
I
again, there was nothing that actually. There's nothing she did other than stand there and tell the guy that she wanted to take his picture.
Right, but she kind of had that presence of
annoyance.
I don't give a damn if I live or die. So
yeah,
what are you going to do?
I guess. But as you can see, though, the guy who followed her and who was there, he was like, I don't care if you look. You know, I told her, I don't care if she looks. And then he kind of, you see him have almost like an epiphany. He's like, you know what? I'll have her decide.
Well, I think it was just like I'm going to screw with these chicks.
Yeah. And possibly.
I'm going to screw with these chicks.
Yeah. They didn't actually say whether the guy shot him, but they imply it when she was like, when they're in the car and they're leaving, Jesse was like, I should have told him not to shoot him. I didn't take a single picture.
Yeah.
You know, and that I actually, I guess, appreciated, I suppose, as a character development type of thing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like,
once again, it didn't really happen organically.
Right. Yeah.
You know, it felt like she came to terms to it way too fast.
Right.
And I guess you can explain that away insofar as she's trying to be a war journalist.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she's here with Lee, who's her
hero,
whatever.
Right.
And she doesn't want to disappoint her.
Yeah.
And she has that moment of weakness. And Lee kind of jumps her shit.
Yeah.
You know, she's like, you know, you don't ask these questions. We take the pictures so other people can ask the questions. This is the job. You want to do the job. This is it.
Right.
And everybody's giving Lee the business for being so hard on her. And she's like, no, she's right. It won't happen again.
Yeah. I don't know. I was on Lee's side in that.
And she wasn't wrong.
She wasn't wrong.
Yeah. You know, and she even said, tell me what I said that wasn't true.
Right. Right. And Sammy was like, you're right, but
yeah.
There was a better way to go about that, I think was what he was trying to say. Yeah. And again, the character development was lacking in the film, but the scenes. So I want to talk about the looters, right? Because she asked him, she's like, what did these guys do?
Yeah.
And it was the two guys that were hung up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they said looting.
Right.
And okay. I mean, we're talking about a situation where civil society has broken down.
Mm-hmm. And it was somebody that the young guy knew.
He went to school with him.
Yeah. He
went to high school.
Yeah, we weren't friends. We never talked.
Yeah, we never talked, but he was in my class. Like,
yeah. But he wishes he talked to me now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
which is like,
you know what? It's very human.
It is.
It's very human.
Uh-huh.
I actually appreciated that little scene.
It was real.
It was real.
It was real. Whether you loved it or hated it, depending on, how much of a sociopath you are.
Right.
It was real. It was believable. This is something that, is very likely.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was one of those circumstances where the imagery told the story with just a tiny little bit of fill-in, right? Looters. Okay. Like that explained the rest of the scene. And it's like, what do we do with them? Mm-hmm. And it's a really good question.
Yeah. Yeah. We've been going back and forth for days what to do with these guys.
Right. And it does like call into question, what do you do in that circumstance? You have a business you're trying to defend and protect.
Because you're kind of torn between, okay, these guys were looters. They're taken from me. Fuck them.
Right.
And on the other hand, like, this is another human being.
Right. Right. What do we do?
Yeah. What do we do?
Do we just cut them loose and say, don't come back?
Yeah.
But
at that point, they were pretty much,
Oh, yeah. They were. And that's the other thing, too. So in that type of circumstance, right, you caught some looters and you've decided you're just going to hang on to them for a little while, right? Mm-hmm. So you can figure out what you're going to do. The more time that passes, the worse shape these people are going to be in. And there's going to come a point of no return where it doesn't really matter what you're going to do because they're not going to survive.
Yeah, where you can either put them out of their misery, or you can give in to your more savage urges and, take your frustration and your powerlessness out on them.
Right. Right.
And I think they were really at that tipping point.
They were at the line. Yeah.
I almost want to say they were on the other side of the line at that point.
Fair. Yeah.
And that's in a situation like that, you would probably see a lot of that.
Hi, Random Rick Reviews. He said, "What's up, fellas? What's going on, man? Talking about Civil War." So yeah, we're at the car wash scene where the looters are hanging up, and we're talking about kind of the deeper issue there. So yeah, and when they moved on from that, I think they're driving away from it.
Mm-hmm.
You see kind of the gravity of what they saw reflected in the atmosphere of the vehicle, which was good storytelling. There were some aspects of it.
Right. There was some stuff
really
that was
good.
like, okay, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I was with the whole, this is the job and that's the way it was.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so the what did you think of the soundtrack of the film? It was weird as far as I was concerned. Like I was like, okay, that's an interesting choice for a song right now. I thought that more than once.
It's interesting you say that, because I did give some thought to the soundtrack, and it kind of felt like, all right, well, we need to put some music in here somewhere just to kind of like...
Right, it needs music.
It needs some music here and there.
Right.
Otherwise, we're way down into the indie film kind of, and since we're not doing this at the Sundance Film Festival, we kind of need a soundtrack.
We need a soundtrack.
But
it was almost afterthought-like, although there was one in particular, right? And it was after, I don't know what that building was, whether it was like a school, that building where they had the guy in the Hawaiian shirt, and then
that was the mall.
That was the mall still?
Yeah, that was the mall.
Okay. So they're at the mall and they finally get in, right? And they get the guys in BDUs and they drag them out.
Yeah, the government forces.
Yep. And then they line them up. And actually Donovan pointed this out to me. The soundtrack was in sync with the machine gun.
Yeah, with the M1.
With the M1. Yeah. it was perfectly timed. And he's like, I actually loved that. And I like I said, I realized it after. I was like, huh. And then I watched that scene again and I'm like, oh yeah, it is.
So there was some thought put into the soundtrack. But you're not dealing with a big Hollywood studio.
Right. Which I actually didn't realize at the beginning. Yeah. I should have realized it when I saw A24 at the beginning, but which was the production company, right? They're kind of an indie type.
Yeah, I mean, they're not, you're not seeing Columbia or, 20th Century Fox
Paramount or any of that
stuff. So I feel like they were kind of like running a kind of a razor's edge where they're like, okay, we need music, but we really don't want to shell out the money for big name music.
Right.
So we're just going to get kind of whatever we can
afford.
Yeah, whatever we can, get. I mean, they had a pretty decent budget.
They did. How much did you say it was? Like 20 million?
Like 50 million.
50 million. Okay, that's a decent budget for a film, man. Yeah. But that was a clever use of music, I thought. At that
the rest of it seemed kind of haphazard.
The rest was very hit and miss as far as the music. Okay. One of the things that I didn't understand, and maybe you can help me here, back to the stadium scene.
Okay.
Right? With the Global Defense Fund or whatever.
Global Relief Fund.
Relief Fund, those people. So they're sitting there, and the girl, Jessie, has her phone in this thing, and she's doing the film, right, where she's scrolling through the film on her phone, and she's got the film hanging. Film doesn't develop like that. I am no photographer, but there's a reason they have dark rooms and there's red lights.
There's actually portable development setups
Is there?
Yeah.
Are there, I should say?
Yeah, my dad actually had some
Really?
when I was a kid.
Okay, see, this is why I talked to him.
Yeah, what you're seeing hanging
Yeah.
is the negatives are already developed.
Okay.
They're already done.
Right.
But when you take them out, they're still wet.
Yeah.
So they do have to dry.
Okay. So it's just to dry it, not to develop.
Yeah, because the last stage of it has been a long time since I've developed film. I want to say like 35 years. So, but the last stage is you rinse it.
Right.
You got to rinse all the chemicals off.
Okay.
And then, it's.
So, yeah, Random Rick reviews. He had seen it. He said, never seen it. So I'm going to go watch the trailer. He says, back, bit silly with Ron from Parks and Rec as, I guess, the president. Plus, the military would run over Texas, Cali, or any other state.
Well, there's the interesting thing. And they don't explain it. You got to kind of read between the lines. And so these states, they all have National Guards.
Right.
They
also have military bases.
They all have military bases.
Right.
And not every member of the military is going to be on board with what's going on.
Right.
Because this would probably be a good time to talk about some of the things that some of the things they drop about the president.
Okay.
So that like they're talking about, when Joel interviews the president, what are you going to ask?
What are you going to ask him?
Yeah. He's like, do you regret abolishing the FBI?
Right. Which my personal take from that was kind of a dig at Trump. Just me personally, because that's one of the things that's been circulating lately with the Trump campaign is doing away with these 3-letter agencies and making some serious changes, if not outright deleting the FBI.
Right. Maybe not.
That's kind of one of the few things that I thought, because there are rumors.
Well, it's going to lead me into my next.
Okay, I'll let you go.
But that's one of the things they said. Do you regret abolishing the FBI?
Right.
He mentions
airstrikes on Americans.
We'll get that's the last one. But before that was talking about his third term in office.
Right. Yeah. So we already know things have greatly changed.
Yeah. And that leads me into the point that I'm going to get to right now.
Okay.
And that's this whole movie. It's all about the president. We got to get the president. We got to go to DC and we got to get the president. We got to get the president. We see the president. The president's giving, speeches on television.
Right.
President. At no point in the movie whatsoever is there a mention of Congress.
Nope.
No mention of Congress.
Nope.
No mention of the Supreme Court.
Nope.
Nothing.
No. No mention of anything else.
Yeah, in DC, there's no police in DC.
Right.
Congress certainly isn't there. None of the people you expect in DC are in DC.
Right.
They say that like a few do or die soldiers and some Secret Service guys.
Yeah, that's all that's left.
Yeah, that's all that's left. Yeah. So it's interesting to me that, number one, the president can't just decide to do a third term.
Right. Right. There has to be there had to be a lead up to that via Congress.
And I really think that's where, on its surface, the filmmaker dropped the ball.
Yes.
If it wasn't intentional.
Right. Right.
Because I watched the movie 3 times. And every time I got a little something different out of it.
Okay.
And the last time I watched it, it occurred to me that, holy shit, there's no Congress. There's no, it's just the president.
The president. Everything is the president.
Yeah, everything is the president. He is the ruthless dictator of the East Coast.
Apparently.
Yeah, apparently.
Right.
And I can't help but wonder if that was a deliberate narrative on the part of the filmmaker.
Probably.
Where it's, no, the president bad.
Yeah.
President bad.
Yeah.
Let's face facts here. The president, we can call him the leader of the free world.
Right.
We can call him the most powerful man in America. We can call him whatever we want. At the end of the day, he's one guy.
Yeah. And his power is far from unlimited.
Right. Far
from unlimited. Right. Yeah. And that's one of the things that I think the both sides of the aisle, I guess, for lack of a better term, miss about the president in and of itself, right? The presidency.
Mhm.
It is not a blank check. Yeah, you get some power with your EOs and whatnot, but the president's power is very limited, and it's set up that way for a reason.
Right.
The checks and balances are there for a reason. Unfortunately, there's room for improvement. But
that has blurred over the years.
It has. Yeah.
But even at that state,
yeah,
the president can't just
he can't just decide he's gonna
to do a third term.
Right.
Because it was never mentioned because you understand that if martial law is declared, democracy is suspended. That was never mentioned.
No, it wasn't even brought up.
Yeah,
there was even really alluded to.
Yeah, there was no even hint of martial law,
right,
at all.
At all.
It was just, president is on his third term.
Yeah.
Not buying it.
Yeah, there's definitely some. There were some severe missteps there, in my opinion, with the story.
Yeah, and then the calling for airstrikes on U.S. citizens.
Right.
I'm having a hard time digesting that one.
Right.
I'm having a real hard time digesting that one.
So I'm gonna jump on that because I never served. You did. More than I that there are guys who are literally just gonna follow orders. They're just gonna do what they're told, especially if they're given these people are domestic terrorists.
There's some, but I believe there's more that are going to go, no. As a matter of fact, talking about the military, the UCMJ, the Uniform Code of Military Justice, clearly states that you are not to follow an unjust order.
Right.
You just don't. You don't do it.
But the question is okay, so. And we're kind of off the rails a little bit here. But who determines that? Is it up to the soldier? And I think part of the reason for boot camp and all this other stuff is to kind of break you down so that you don't question orders.
Yes and no.
Okay.
Yes and no. And that's the weird duality of it. I don't want to get too much into that.
Right. That's a whole episode.
From my experience, but it is very clearly stated. Yeah. When you're in boot camp. Yeah. Now, granted, I was in the 90s, so things may have changed.
Right. But I want the viewers to understand. By the way, this guy is hardcore. He won't tell you this, so I'm going to tell you. He ran his PT, his final test, on a broken ankle. And completed it, I might add. So, no, you deserve a little bit of accolade on that because it's, man, dude, that's hardcore. That's hard. I'd be like, oh, my
God. Okay, just real quick aside. Okay. Real quick aside. Yeah. When you're faced with, do the 2-mile run or do boot camp again.
Right.
You're right, and it was a stress fracture. It wasn't like a clean break or anything.
Broken,
I wasn't in a cast. It was a stress fracture.
Yeah, but it was fractured.
I mean, it hurt like hell. Don't get me wrong.
That's what I'm saying.
Don't get me wrong. It hurt like hell, but I wasn't doing that those freaking 8 weeks again.
Right. I hear you. Oh, you can repeat it.
Yeah.
No. That.
Yeah. After my ankle heals.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Not happening. Anyway. This isn't about me. This is about the movie.
Yeah.
So, I'm not buying the airstrike thing.
Right.
It's a movie.
But hold on though. And this is okay. So hold on. Triple R, Random Rick Review says, "Oh yeah, you do not want to get recycled in basic because it sucks." So, but okay, and by seceding from the Union, are these people still Americans? So, like the states, right? California, Texas alliance, and then the Florida alliance, or whatever, right? The Western forces.
All right.
If you secede from the Union,
well, Do you really want to open that can of worms?
I'm just asking, is it then, like, let's say airstrikes were done against the Western forces? Is that against American citizens, or is that now a hostile foreign nation?
Well, from the movie aspect.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go from the movie aspect.
Right.
We don't see how the West looks.
Right, true.
We do see how the East Coast looks.
And it's rough.
And it's, you know,
it's bad.
The interstates are vaporized.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
You know, the Western forces aren't in New York.
Right. True.
But their interstates are destroyed.
Yeah.
You know, do the math.
Right.
You know, do the math. That's all I got to say about that.
Fair. I know that it's not a bad movie. It's not a great movie. It falls somewhere in the middle. But one of my favorite scenes in the movie was the sniper scene.
The sniper scene was pretty good.
Yeah.
It was very poignant.
I think we'll do that. We'll talk about the sniper scene real quick, and then we'll kind of wrap it up for this. We're gonna have to.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do a two-part.
We're gonna have to come back to this. But let's talk about the sniper scene, okay? Because they pull up, and it's an obvious trap. To at least one of them, they're like, whoa.
Yeah, I mean, they all get, you know,
feel uncomfortable.
You've got 3 seasoned journalists,
right?
Okay, and they all kind of got the willies.
Yeah,
they're like, what do we do? Do we go forward? He's like, I'm going to pull up a little bit.
Yeah, or do we go back and around?
Yeah, Sammy, the
most experienced,
the oldest guy, for a reason, says, there was a turnoff a couple miles back. Let's go that way.
Yeah. Random review says, LOL, did Florida separate in the movie? Crazy old people riding alligators in the battle.
Actually, yes.
Yeah.
We touched on it a little bit earlier. The Florida Alliance.
Yeah, which is Florida and some other southern states. Now, there's very little exposition in the movie itself, but there were some people that were able to take a reflection of a map and determine some of the various factions.
Yeah. If you look online, you can find pictures of it.
You can find pictures. But so the sniper scene, they pull up and there's a body in this Winter Wonderland display. And he's just laying there.
Yeah, you don't know who it is. He's in fatigues.
Yep.
He's got a field kit on.
Yep.
And he's obviously dead.
Right.
That's pretty much all you know.
Yeah.
Is he Western forces? Is he government forces? Who knows?
Right. Don't know. Yeah. And they don't even see anyone else around.
Yeah.
Until shots ring out.
Well, even then they don't see anybody.
Well, they don't see anybody, but the shots ring out, hit the vehicle. He drives it. To his credit, he drives forward and stops the vehicle with an obstruction between him and the direction.
He finds cover.
He finds cover. Parks the vehicle. They get out, all except Sammy, who stays his ass right there in the truck. What's he going to do?
He's old. He's fat.
What's he going to do? Right. So they're hunkering down and they see a sniper team.
Yeah. They see a sniper and a spotter.
Yep.
And the funny thing, I don't know if you saw it or not. So they're in military, gear.
Yep.
Look very military.
Yep.
Except their nails are painted.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. You'll see this. It's another one of those blink and you'll miss it kind of things.
Right.
Like the mall scene, there's like spray paint or chalk on the wall.
Okay.
And it's like 3 colors.
Right.
It's like green, pink, and I don't remember the other color.
Okay.
But at any rate, there's like these 3 colors on the wall, and you don't think much of it.
Right.
And then later in the sniper scene, you see these guys in their military outfits.
Yep.
Except like the one guy's got dyed hair.
Yep. His hair is the
multicolored dyed hair. The spotter has multicolored dyed hair.
Right.
And the actual sniper has his fingernails painted like green, and
multicolored.
pink.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
You know,
What this means, who knows?
People are kind of leaning towards that's the colors for the Western forces,
Right.
but it's never actually expounded upon.
It's never explicit.
Like I said, it's another one of those blink and you'll miss it kind of moments.
Right. And to me, that particular that took away from the scene for me a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But the scene still remains one of my favorite because the one guy, now remember, they're driving this big white truck that says press on the side. It's like an expedition, Ford Expedition, right? I think excursion, I think. Yeah, excursion, expedition, whatever. Big SUV, big white SUV that says press in black letters on the side. So he goes over there and he's hiding, and he's like, he holds up his little badge, Joel does, and he's like, we're press.
Oh yeah. Now
cool.
I know why.
Yeah, he looks at it, he's like, cool. That explains the letters on the side of your truck.
Yeah.
Like what?
Yeah. And he's asking him questions, and he's like, what's going on? He's like, that guy over there is stuck. We're stuck.
Yep.
And he's like, we're press. And he's like, are you Western forces? What? Who's the guy? Yeah, who are you taking orders from? He's like, orders? No orders.
Yeah.
He's trying to kill us. We're trying to kill him.
Exactly.
And Joel keeps asking questions. He goes, oh, I understand. You're retarded.
Uh-huh.
You don't understand a fucking word I'm saying. And then the guy turns to Jesse. He goes, hey, who's in that house?
Yep.
And she says, somebody's shooting. And he says, see, she gets it.
Yep. I loved that scene. The rest of it, but that particular interaction.
That scene was kind of like cinematic gold there.
It was. It really was. Because, like, why are you asking stupid ass questions? You can tell. And the sniper takes this opportunity to say, would everybody shut the fuck up? Like, I'm trying to concentrate here.
Yeah.
I'm trying to line this shot up. And then he takes the shot and he's like, I have good news. And then that was it. It cut to them and I thought that was an excellent resolution to the scene, to be honest. Because what else do you need to know?
Right. Because honestly, it was only going to end one of two ways.
Well, yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, it's I can think of worse movies to spend an hour and 40 minutes watching for sure, especially today.
Mm-hmm.
But other than a few cinematic gold moments, handful at most, really, the sniper scene. Are there any other scenes that you would say, yeah, this is a must watch?
Must watch?
Yeah.
The dump truck scene.
The dump truck scene was really good, but I would say you really need the entirety of that scene. To understand everything.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll leave you with this, and then we'll sign off because we're going to come back to this next week.
Yeah.
First of all, Wednesday mornings. Is that not going to work for you moving forward?
We're going to have to kind of play that by ear.
Okay. Worst case, we will tape on Tuesday and play it on Wednesday morning, unless you guys would prefer us to be live Tuesday mornings at 8. Let us know. Talk at dionbergeron.com. And you can get to the website really easy, dionsdailydose.com. It'll take you right to the website, and then there's a contact form on there. Let us know what you think, because we're open either way. It doesn't matter. If we tape on Tuesday, we might as well be live. It doesn't really matter.
Mm-hmm.
But that's about it as far as.
But if we tape, we miss some of the.
Yeah, we'll miss the comments if we tape. So if you guys would rather be, live with us on Tuesday.
If you want it to be a little more interactive, then we'll do a live thing. If you're not concerned about it, then then we'll do it whenever we feel like it.
Yeah, thank you, appreciate you. It's hitting with a sub like, because live is always fun. I agree. I prefer doing lives because I like the audience interaction. That's kind of takes it to the next level for me.
Well, I kind of have to rely on you for the audience interaction because I can't.
You can't really see it there.
Yeah.
I mean, you could have it on your phone, but then you're looking at your phone instead of.
Yeah,
but
that just doesn't seem very engaging, does it?
There's that. there is that. Maybe I need to get a bigger, like a tablet or something for right there.
I don't know.
I don't know.
We'll figure something
We'll
out.
figure it out. Play it by ear. But that's it for today, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you next week. And as always, God bless you, God bless Indiana, and God bless the United States of America.
Amen. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.
If you'd like to support the show, please visit our Patreon at patreon.com/Dion's Daily Dose. This has been Dion's Daily Dose, hosted by Dion Bergeron. Executive producers, Sean Holgram and Michael Beebe. Copyright 2024. Dion's Daily Dose, all rights reserved.